Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the McLuhan Institute live number 49. Tennyson, anyone? It's Tuesday night. It's 9 p.m. or thereabouts. I'm back in the library of Eric McLuhan for another few hours this week, which is always my pleasure and privilege to do, and happy to be here with you and to have you here with me. Say Rain, hey my friend. Always count on Say Rain to be here. Appreciate that, my friend. So yeah, last week I didn't do a live because I ran out of cell phone data, and the wireless here isn't really good enough to do live videos and streaming and stuff. So I just don't bother. So I did other things, which I've got a lot going on, so that's cool. But tonight I'm back in the library and cataloging some books, and I thought I'd share some with you. The first ones I pulled off the shelf, Explorations anthologies. I really got to get better lighting, I'm sorry people. Explorations was a journal edited by Marshall McLuhan and his friend Edmund Carpenter, Ted Carpenter. Together they chaired the Ford Foundation grant, applied for and won the Ford Foundation grant, chaired the series of culture and communication, out of which this explorations group grew, and they produced was it eight journals of explorations through 1953 to 59, I think it was. And it was very popular. The issues sold out almost immediately. And they're apparently very hard to come by. I have a set, which is nice, and a few extra copies here and there, and a lot of the later explorations as off-prints, which is cool. I thought I would share just this. Again, sorry for the lighting. This is the first Beacon anthology, 1960. It collected a lot of the best material from the early years. And this copy in particular was Marshall's. Curiously, it has two notes in it. On the back here, there are two page notations, page 2, comma 162. If you go to, I cheated, I already looked at this. If you go to page 2, it's Marshall's essay, Classroom Without Walls, from Exploration 7 in 1957, and 2. If you go to 2, there's just a point, a pencil point there to show you where he wants you to look or where he looked. And it starts, today we're beginning to realize that the new media aren't just mechanical gimmicks for creating worlds of illusion, but new languages with new and unique powers of expression. That's page 2. The second annotation, 162, leads you to The New Languages by Edmund Carpenter. This was, I think, in Exploration 6 in 56, a year earlier. And again, we have this pencil mark from Marshall pointing out the new mass media, film, radio, TV, are new languages, their grammars as yet unknown. Two very similar comments pointed out by Marshall. Maybe when it seems to have been Marshall's habit when he got a new book to go through it, and I find that amazing. The man devoured books. I mean, he breezed through them, and thank goodness. Even when he got additional copies of his own books, he'd read through them and often make a lot of notes, which is very helpful for myself and others of us following. The other two are, this is the 1966 second edition, I believe, of Explorations, and the one may have been Marshall's. The second has a very faded waybill in it. Thank you for your business. This was a second-hand copy, bought, I believe, by my father. There's those. I thought I would spend a minute on a subject I don't know an awful lot about, but we can look at it together anyway. Many people, if you were to ask them about Marshall McLuhan's books, would correctly identify The Mechanical Bride, The Folklore of Industrial Man as his first book, 1951. Most people figure The Gutenberg Galaxy was his second book in 1962, but in fact, he did put out a book before that, along with numerous essays in various journals, but there was actually a book in 1956, and that was an edited collection of Tennyson's poetry, Tennyson's selected poetry. And here I have one of our little treasures, which is a leather-bound copy of selected poetry, Tennyson, with very fine marbled papers and all the rest of it. And that smell, I apologize that you can't smell it. This was an author's presentation copy, gilding and everything, look at that. And we have a few in our collection, not all of them, but most of them. The medium is the massage, who knows where that ended up, if he got one. But this is the presentation of his first book, and there are a couple of bookmarks in it. There are no annotations as such. There's one card in the introduction, a second note here is Frank Smithson's Wafer Diary for 1972, American edition. Now I don't know if this is my father's or Marshall's, presumably Marshall's note, but it's at page 70, Tennyson's poem The Lotus Eaters, and I looked at this, and of course this has special significance to me, as many of you will clue on. I'm just going to read the first stanza here. "Courage," he said, and pointed toward the land. "This mounting wave will roll us shoreward soon." In the afternoon they came unto a land in which it seemed always afternoon. All round the coast the languid air did swoon, breathing like one that hath a weary dream. Full-faced above the valley stood the moon, and like a downward smoke the slender stream along the cliff to fall and pause and fall did seem. Courage, one of the last words of my father, is very special to me. And then the final bookmark is at Ulysses, Tennyson's poem. I haven't spent a lot of time with Tennyson. People forget that Marshall, or didn't know even, that Marshall McLuhan was first and foremost a student and teacher and critic of English literature and poetry in particular. He was an expert in the moderns, particular attention to Eliot, Pound, James Joyce, of course. But apparently he had a fondness for Tennyson. He did quite a few essays on Tennyson. I thought I would read just a small excerpt from his introduction. This is the paperback edition, 19 somewhat later, anyway, of the same book, collected selected poetry. Marshall writes quite a lengthy introduction to this book, and it's a very standard for him academic sort of work, biographic treatment, explanation, early years, all that sort of thing, with a bit of Marshall's twist in there. But it's not as out there as some people expect from Marshall's writings. The last paragraph reads, If Tennyson is to be read today, he can only, and keep in mind this is 1956, if Tennyson is to be read today, he can only be experienced through the art and culture of the technological society which has defined itself since his time. He was not read on his own terms in the 19th century, and today we can only rediscover him by first sampling his quality as it comes through our mid-century ways of thought and feeling. And that means adopting a highly technical approach to his art. Since he himself was very self-conscious and technical experimenter, he should prove much more congenial to our taste than to the taste of his own day, when deliberate technique in the arts was frowned on. The Victorians were enthusiastic about a mainly non-existent Tennyson who had sold his artistic soul for a pot of message. We are free to discover the Tennyson who Hallam was assured had surpassed Shelley and Keats in the sophisticated art of Impressionism. There you are. You can read the whole thing for Marshall's take on Tennyson. A couple other books coming down the line, and keep in mind that if you've been paying attention, we're on the McLuhan shelves in Eric McLuhan's library, which is what I'm inventorying at the moment. Here we have The Princess and Maud, a nice little book, which, why did I pick this out for any particular reason? No, just that it's here. Princess is Maud. Well, it's Tennyson, so that's why it's here. Maybe it was Marshall's. Possibly it was just Eric's, but it's a little book of poetry. And another edition of Tennyson's selected poetry. This one, red cover. I haven't, we're getting ahead of my inventory now, so I haven't looked deeply into this yet. Reinhard Winston, 1966, 5th printing. Oh, this one, I did notice this insert. This one is interesting because it does have some notes of Marshall's. Tennyson, Devore, Crump, Review, Key, K-E-Y. Then below, Dub, Doob, Plots, Double Plots, via Crump, via Ovid. Marshall's notes in that copy. And the notes are made on this photocopy of a poem, Love in 1977, Darcy, Darcy Heyman. And I'm not sure who that is, but an artist and poet from the 60s, 70s, apparently. Interesting. I'm a little out of practice with the inventory stuff because I've been concentrating so much on this Understanding Media course. The last work here, the last book I'll go over is Gerard Manley Hopkins, another poet that Marshall was studied quite a bit and wrote quite a bit on. This is Gerard Manley Hopkins by the Kenyon Critics, the makers of modern literature, New Direction Books, Norfolk, Connecticut. 1944, 1945. Now, the Kenyon Critics, Robert Lowell, Herbert Marshall McLuhan, F.R. Leavis, Josephine Miles, Arthur Meisner, Harold Whitehall, and Austin Warren. Marshall McLuhan, Herbert Marshall McLuhan. Of course, if you don't know, Marshall's first name was Herbert. He dropped it to H. Marshall McLuhan and then dropped the Herbert H altogether later and became Marshall. He was a member of this association, this critical association, the Kenyon Critics. And this book is a collection of essays brought together for the centenary of Hopkins' birth. And Marshall contributed The Analogical Mirrors, Herbert Marshall McLuhan. I thought I would read just a little bit of this. Story time with Andrew McLuhan. The Analogical Mirrors, Herbert Marshall McLuhan. This essay is available other places. I'm sure you can find it. Hopkins is full of pitfalls for the unwary. There is a double difficulty. His Catholic belief and experience on one hand, his individual use of the resources of English on the other, to say nothing of his irrelevant theory of prosody. The non-Catholic reader, especially the non-Christian reader, is timid or hostile in the presence of Hopkins' faith and doctrine. He is beset with, quote, mnemonic irrelevance, unquote, and stirred to 1,000 acts of undemanded vigilance and depreciation, which inevitably distort the pattern and texture of the poems. For the Catholic reader, Hopkins has, understandably, a great deal of prestige value. Long accustomed to a defensive position behind a minority culture, English and American Catholics have developed multiple mental squints. Involuntarily, their sensibilities have been nourished and ordered by a century or more of an alien literary and artistic activity which, faute de mieux, they still approach askance. However, their intellectual distrust in the presence of, say, the emotional chaos of Shelley or Browning has not in the least prevented the assimilation of the vision of those poets. One might add that it has not in the least prevented them from hailing as Catholic poetry the febrile immaturities of Francis Thompson and Joyce Kilmer. There you have it. Poetry tonight from the McLuhan Institute. I hope this finds you well, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for being here. Thank you for supporting me and my work with the McLuhan Institute. Ciao for now.